Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters. The very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
I was...
Look again. Freeze it.
It's been over 20 years since the original Matrix changed the game forever. Exploring the idea of simulation theory and combining groundbreaking special effects with martial arts to create one of the most iconic films of all time. Neo, a hacker living in the Matrix who finds out that the world he knows isn't real, and is freed and recruited by Morpheus and Trinity, believing that he is the one, and ultimately becoming a martyr and sacrificing himself for the greater good. The story was complete, arguably from the first film, which managed to effectively explore the pros and cons of ignorance through the concept of the Matrix, develop memorable characters, and establish one of the best movie villains ever in Agent Smith. The Matrix Reloaded was a step up in style, but a step back in writing quality, turning the agents from menacing figures to literal bowling pins, and destroying any intimidation they might have had. They traded the fascinating concept of justifying the life in the Matrix versus a life in Zion, and left us with "Watch me make this girl come with a cake." The Matrix Revolution shat the bed, pushed the characters it developed and Reloaded to the side, and upgraded Agent Smith from a bowling pin to a cartoon villain, and made us suffer through a Dragon Ball Z fight in the sky. Hugo Weaving's rants is probably the only thing that salvaged these scenes, and I'd be lying to you if I said I truly understood what happened at the end of that movie. But the part that mattered most to me is that Neo saves Zion, and the war is over. So you can imagine my surprise when the trailer dropped for the Matrix Regurgitation. And the first thing I see is Trinity meeting John Wick. Oh, I'm sorry, Thomas Anderson. So before the movie is even out, it's clear that they're retconning the events of the original trilogy. And after the trauma I've experienced in recent years, my cynical mind could only conclude one thing. The absolute desecration and deconstruction of our heroes continue. You take an iconic character, erase all of their accomplishments, make their journey meaningless, humiliate them, and replace them with a new hero, a better hero, an upgrade perhaps. It's a formula that I have seen destroy so many franchises, and is literally the reason I started this channel. So let's see how The Matrix fares, shall we? The movie starts off with copying the opening scene of the first film, scene by scene, line by line, shown from the perspective of our protagonist Blue. After getting attacked by an agent, she finds out that he's self-aware, and he tells her that he's Morpheus. How? Why? I have no idea, don't ask any questions. So she gives him the red pill right there on the spot, and he proceeds to stumble around, dazed out of his mind. So she gives him her glasses and sends him back to the agents, but he's too high, so they run for it. It's amazing how they remember enough of the first film to shamelessly copy it and call it nostalgia. But they managed to forget the reason Morpheus took Neo to a secure location in the first place. It's not something you want to do in public, especially around agents. But instead, she basically drugs them right before a gunfight. Great start. What's even happening right now? Who are you people? Where the fuck is Neo? Oh, there he is. We see Neo in the Matrix working as a software programmer, compelled to connect with a stranger at a coffee shop, and plagued by the visions of his former life, seemingly oblivious to the events of the original trilogy being real, and he thinks it was all a game he created, being convinced by his therapist and annoying co-workers that it's all in his head. We see a montage of his day-to-day, taking the blue pill, trapped in the cycle, wasting our time, since we've already seen this movie and we're just waiting for him to catch up. Covered by the rants of his stupid co-workers, planning a Matrix sequel and praising the first one in the process. So was this pretentious mess of a scene supposed to be the clever meta part everybody was talking about? Because all it did was show how little ideas they actually have, if this is what they're forced to resort to. Literally showing clips of the original movie, having no faith in the audience to understand any of the references. Not to mention, revealing the fact that they think bullet time is what made the Matrix special. Thanks. Let's praise the most superficial aspect of the movie and ignore all the writing quality. That's always a good sign. After watching that stupid scene, Neo's had enough and he's ready to end it all. But Blue shows up out of nowhere just to stop him in the nick of time. How convenient. How did she even find him on that random rooftop? Of course, nothing is explained. She manages to convince him to trust her by showing her the rabbit tattoo. Remember that from the first movie? Well, we're doing it again, because fuck you. She takes him through a portal to Tokyo and tells him how much better it is than using payphones. And then they go to a room where footage from the Matrix is playing, and we are forced to watch the fake Morpheus mock the lines of the real Morpheus. Who the fuck approved of this kind of disrespect? They give him the red pill and suddenly they're under attack. And my eyes are poisoned by another horrendously choreographed fight scene. I will never diss Plastic Neo ever again after watching this shit. But if you weren't already overwhelmed and brought to tears with nostalgia from these incredible callbacks, we have more. We get to watch him get released from the pod, again. We get the White Room scene, again. Training with Morpheus, again. Meeting the crew, again. Hey, remember Niobe? Well, she's back, but she's a mutant now. Remember Zion? Well, fuck Zion. This is Io, bitch. We got strawberries and good weed. They actually have this cannibal freak say Zion was obsessed with war. Did you watch the fucking movie? You were in it. They were under attack, you're just lying. And oh yeah, apparently after the siege, Morpheus was elected leader, and his ignorance is what led to their current situation. Just wow. They give him a mud statue, replace him with a fool, and tell us that he failed. Thank you for shitting on one of my favorite characters ever. Always a pleasure. Oh, did I mention they replaced Agent Smith with the least intimidating actor they could find? I have no idea how or why he's in this movie, and the bigger question is why we got these two imposters rather than the real ones. And the people they do bring back are either goblins or completely ruined. How the fuck are you gonna do Merovingian like this? What are you doing? We get another dogshit worthless fight with no stakes or meaning, and then we get Neil Patrick Harris to tell us the plot while Neo is stuck in bullet time. So apparently Neo is useless by himself, and it's only when he's combined with Trinity that he has any value, and they've been used to power the Matrix all this time. And then he goes on and on and on about how much better his Matrix is. And I sit here finding myself asking, oh my god, who the hell cares? Then we see Blue and the rest of the no-names try to prep Trinity to be released by the pod, while Neo enters the Matrix to find her. Neo tries to convince her to come with him, but her husband and kids are calling her, and she goes with them begrudgingly. Then she changes her mind and says, I am Trinity, and then beats up her husband and abandons her children. What a woman, you go girl. Can you imagine the direction for this scene? It's like the director said to the guy, make the most misogynistic face you could possibly make, because this is all we got. Maybe if they actually built up their relationship and showed that he was a bad husband, this would make sense. But they were too busy with all the other bullshit in this movie to justify her change. Agent Smith comes out of nowhere and fucks up Neil Patrick Harris. Then Neo and Trinity have a shouting contest in the middle of the street, trying to out-cringe each other. NPH panics at the sight of Super Saiyan Trinity and orders the Sentinels to kill her. But Blue and the Nobodies got her out just in time, because none of the thousands of Sentinels were assigned to watch the pods, because this film makes no fucking sense. They reach out to each other to touch hands and connect to become the one, or the halves, or they're both the ones. I have no fucking idea what's going on, and I want this movie to end. Neo and Trinity are chased through the street and end up on a rooftop, while Neo awkwardly blocks bullets like an old man. And they have the nerve to have a callback to the bullet drop scene from the first Matrix. They get blown up from a rocket and somehow don't die. And then Trinity stands up and looks at the sunset, while Neo rolls around on the floor before finally stumbling to his feet. They put the SWAT team on pause so they can have a romantic kiss. And then once that's done, they kick in the door. And then, it happens. The scene that broke my brain, inspired this video. The scene that made me convulse with laughter and then enraged with anger. So for the second time in this goddamn movie, we see Neo fail at flying, which is what he was most iconic for, if anything. And they give it to Trinity. They float in the fucking sky for like 20 seconds and nobody shoots them. Trinity says bye and then flies off. And then we get our revenge fantasy scene as Trinity beats up Neil Patrick Harris as Neo, petting a cat in the background, looks on in approval. He's a goddamn machine. He doesn't feel pain. This makes no sense. But you gotta get your You Go Girl scenes in there, no matter how nonsensical or contrived it may be. We get one more painful monologue trying to set up more movies, as if anyone wants to see any more of this shit. And then Neo and Trinity fly into the sunset together. The end.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
How is this even possible? How did you make this? My expectations were at 0 for this movie, and you still managed to make it worse than I could possibly have imagined. The Matrix was a fantastic meal for the mind. The second and third movies were decent leftovers if you were still hungry. But this is fucking puke. The Matrix Regurgitations couldn't be a more suitable name, as all it does is cannibalize its own legacy and vomit out this sequel that nobody fucking asked for. Do you remember how interesting the crew of the Nebuchadnezzar was? From Mouse, to Tank, to Cypher the Legend, to the Not Like This chick. I challenge anyone to remember the names of one of these fools a month from now. Go ahead. The only characterization they attempted was saying one of them was a huge Neo fan with a bunch of questions for him. And then we never see them fucking speak. Keanu looked shell-shocked the entire movie, like he couldn't believe he was doing this and was embarrassed to be there. And just like the first 3 films, his chemistry with Trinity is as lifeless as ever. Like watching 2 droids trying to portray human emotions. This movie honestly felt like a bunch of TikTok kids paid Keanu Reeves to run around and play Matrix with them. It felt more like a parody or a sci-fi movie paying homage to the Matrix in a really shitty way. And as I predicted, the desecration continues, with Neo's accomplishments being completely ruined and his character being totally diminished. He's Jake Anderson now, joining John and Luke on the shelf of disgraced and replaced characters. All for the sake of a fucking retcon. The Oracle told Trinity she isn't the one, but she will fall in love with the one. And it was her belief in him that helped Neo fulfill his destiny. She was always his anchor, his rock, and was willing to put it all on the line just like he was. Everybody loved Trinity. But no, that's just not enough, so we get this bullshit instead. And we are left with the question of why. Why was this made? What the fuck have you done?
Why now? Why is now the right time for more Matrix?
Oh, okay, yeah, you just come out and get to like ask the gigantic question that is like...
It's actually not a big question. It's the one question you should know. Why did you make this film?
It wasn't planned. It was not orchestrated in any way.
Can you tell me what it is? Do you even know?
So a film that the fans didn't ask for and the director can't explain is definitely doomed to fail. I have no idea what I did to deserve this, and there isn't a single redeeming moment I can praise. Even seeing sweet Sati and her eyebrows was short-lived, as she's now a plank of wood and all the charm is being stripped from her character. And hey, remember Blue? Well, the film certainly didn't. She arguably had the most screen time and effect on the plot, yet we don't get to learn anything about her. She saw Neo on a roof and has blue hair. That's her legacy. There was a kaiju sentinel Pokemon for some reason, and Matrix zombies, and that stupid black cat walking around the entire movie, because remember that from the first film? We're doing it again. And oh yeah, did I forget to mention Niobe and how she looked like a
fucking alien?
Ugh. This movie is going to age like milk. There will be no one praising this piece of shit 20 years from now like the original was, and I hope it dies a painful death at the box office. You made Trinity into a miserable bitch. You made Neo a passenger in his own film, bouncing through the plot like a pinball with no agency whatsoever. You spit on Morpheus' legacy in every way you could. You disrespected Zion. You embarrassed Agent Smith. You disgraced your own legacy, and you can't even explain why. Thank you so much for digging up these fossils just to show us that the old heroes suck and the new ones are way better. Fuck you.